Where arts and culture summit the airwaves. This is the Nine Rails Arts Podcast.
Well, welcome to another Nine Rails Arts Podcast with myself.
A crew.
Yeah, this is another crew. This is a little bit smaller than our last crew, but still another full table. So thank you for taking the time today. This is Social Undistance.
I had to ask if it was ED or how it worked, but yeah, Social Undistance.
Social Undistance, which is a current exhibition at Ogden Contemporary Arts. And we're joined by a nice group today. Quick introduction. My name is Todd Oberndorfer. I am the Arts Outreach Manager and Advisor, Department of Visual Art and Design, and a co-founder with Banyan, and one of now several hosts of the Nine Rails Arts Podcast. And so we're going to move around the table to the right. Just a quick introduction. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me. I'm Tawna Halbert. I am the choreographer and dance director of the project.
Excellent.
I'm Venessa Castagnoli, the executive director for Ogden Contemporary Arts.
I am Cam McLeod, visual artist, photographer, and co-collaborator of Social Undistance.
And last but not least,
R. Brandon Long, producer, host, the Banyan Collective.
just in case you say something throughout.
Just in case.
That's the voice right there on the end, right? So, all right. So today we're going to take you through kind of what inspired this particular piece. This goes back, do I say years? Year and 18 months?
No, I think if I have my timeline correct, I reached out to Tawna in the summer of 2019. No, it would have been 2020. Summer of 2020.
So 1 year. We're looking
72
about a year.
months of 2020.
Yeah, 72 months of 2020. And it wasn't related to this at all. Like it started as something very different, but
But a collaboration nonetheless.
collaboration nonetheless, yeah. So that was in the summer. We had another idea for a project that was going to sort of be in the fall. That came and went, and then we kept talking and kept evolving the conversation, and obviously life was pretty fluid at that point, or unpredictable, and so the conversation just sort of took that same path of least resistance in some way.
Did this original project evolve to a point where it's something very different, or is this something that we could see a different project in the future?
Well, I originally, it started as a different project for me. This whole 2020 allowed for a lot of creativity to happen by necessity. When we were talking in the fall of 2020, I didn't expect there to be a dance live performance like the grant that I had written 2 weeks before COVID hit stated I would have. So everything was open. There was nothing off the table, and it was really freeing to just be able to sit and have a conversation about what are the possibilities for this.
I love it. Okay, so Venessa, I'm going to go to you because you probably I imagine several times every single day describe this particular show. And so how would you describe it from your standpoint?
Yeah, so Social Undistance is addressing basically the struggles of COVID, of isolation, of quarantine, and also the celebration of coming back together. I think in a nutshell, the quick, easy description is that.
I think that's perfect. And so you're using your entire space.
We are. So so when Cam and Tawna came to me with this project, I thought it was a great idea, and I thought we could get really creative on how we do the performance aspect and to make it something that our community has never experienced before. And Tawna is amazing and made it happen. So so we utilize the whole space not only for the exhibition, which is the photography and the videography, as well as the projections, or I'm sorry, I already said that, and sound pieces on top of it. But we also utilize the whole space for the live performances, which was very beautifully done.
And the live performances have happened a handful of times.
Yeah, we had a total of 4 shows. The first one was a private showing, and then the 3 were open to the public. And unfortunately, if you guys didn't see it, you missed it.
And I'll tell you what, for all listeners, honestly, that is one of the reasons to keep an eye out for what's coming up, because honestly, this is one of those situations where I did happen to have a chance. I think I saw the second performance, and if you missed it, you kind of missed it, right? You can have an amazing experience going into the gallery space right now. Again, you know, there's videos and there's photographs and there's GIFs, and you know what I mean? It's really an amazing experience without, but as far as taking the full thing in. Now, when this was being prepared, because a lot of the dance numbers are recorded, was there always going to be a live aspect to it?
No, the original concept was basically what's in the gallery right now. So these videos, or this main video installation, combined with these moving images or GIFs, and then the still frames. That was sort of the overarching or the main concept for what I had approached Tawna on. But as Tawna mentioned earlier, she had a grant already approved for a live dance performance through the Ogden City Arts grant process. And she was looking for a way to, because I think you because of COVID, you had to push it back, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we were at a point where we had the dancers who wanted to do the project. We had all the gumption, but we didn't have a space to do it. And we thought maybe this would live on the internet, on YouTube or something. So the collision of Cam's vision and the energy to create movement combined.
Yeah, and Tawna had another name for her project that we didn't end up really using, but it was Edge Effect, right?
Yeah, Edge Effect is the concept of when different ideas and disciplines combine to create something completely new. So we did Edge Effect.
We did Edge Effect.
I do love that, actually.
But when we sat down to explore other names, Edge Effect that Tawna had created for the live performances still had a lot to do with COVID, and everything was sort of created in that time frame and was relevant. So I actually think Joe Blake, who was instrumental in both pieces, he came up with Social Undistance, I think, in one of our meetings, and so give him credit to that naming.
I'll tell you what, a couple of years ago, social distance was not a term, in the sense that it is now. And so I think it's a great name.
Undistance isn't actually a word.
Yeah.
Every
Right.
time I do any sort of marketing material, my autocorrect just tries to correct it. It's like, no, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been a word.
Well,
social distance
yeah.
should not have been a word,
Yeah.
I think.
You're right.
Exactly.
And Tawna, we talked about this a little bit, going back and forth about how artists like to use words that aren't really words. It's
Yeah.
just kind of funny that we decided on a title that wasn't really a word.
And one of our pieces was unheard community, but herd as in like a herd of animals, unheard community.
So you're referencing words that we've gotten to know so well, but in the creation, social undistance seems like a word to me now because of the last year and a half, Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how it was created. Most of the videos are individual dancers, if I'm not mistaken. And so these were filmed during, sort of isolation periods.
I think it was January.
Yes.
And so how did you film them?
So we have the main video installation that we worked around and extracted pieces from that. So everything happened from the main installation piece, which includes it's a 3x3 grid. We have 9 dancers, and each dancer is performing the same or almost the identical choreography in their respective boxes, and that's sort of meant to illustrate and emphasize a feeling of enclosed confinement and isolation. And so when the whole piece is playing, you see these performers or dancers performing within the confines of their little box, but they're all doing the same thing. To achieve that, and under the pressures of COVID, we had set up in the Monarch. So I had approached Venessa. We were looking for space to film this. And I really wanted something that felt sterile, so something industrial, but with a clean background, because we were going to just shoot it on just a flat wall. We had talked about bringing in a backdrop potentially, but I wanted that feeling of sterileness and dystopia as well. I mean, and that played into wardrobe selection and things like that, and the choreography for that matter. So the brick the concrete background wall was sort of perfect for that sterile look and feel. It's got these holes in it, which to me sort of looks and feels like a
padded room.
Like a padded room with the buttons. So it was sort of perfect. So Venessa graciously tapped her resources and opened up that space for us to film. The way we did it to avoid or to minimize our exposure and everyone else's exposure was everybody came in for an hour block at a time. So we filmed it over the course of 9 hours. It was probably a 10-hour day actually, because we wanted our dancers to perform without a mask. Until we got to the duet, which is the second half of the piece. So everybody came in, performed theirs. Each routine, I think they did it twice, pretty much. And then we'd go on to the next, and just down the line we went.
And then ultimately how they were presented in sort of the Brady Bunch cube style also obviously reminds us all of a year of Zoom meetings, right?
Yep.
And so adding that other element made it very, very timely and that much more effective.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if originally that was planned, but after the fact, it's like, yep, we have all been there for sure.
It's such a new universal concept.
Yeah. And that's something that's not leaving, I don't think.
Yeah.
But it'll be mixed with in person, that's for sure.
The original concept was actually to project onto analog TV sets and build a physical installation of a 3x3 grid, or somehow figure out how to play back the video through the TVs. And that posed some logistical issues and budgetary restraints too. So I think it worked out for the best, but the idea was to have this analog installation and then use projection to sort of modernize it. But we kind of did it the opposite way. We reverse engineered that, and we used projection, and then we added layers of analog effect to that, which kind of made it more dystopian, I think.
There's something I'm learning about Cam is his vision is to the moon. And so even his like compromised version is still just so beyond what I would ever imagine.
The compromise is right here.
Yeah.
My bar is up high if you can't see that. Yeah.
Just the attention to detail, and he really, everything is very well thought out, even to the process of printing the photographs. They all have perforated edges, right? Yeah. And Cam talks about it as like a timestamp, right? So it's really talking about our place in COVID at that moment when he was filming it, when he was shooting it. And Cam, you should talk a little more about that.
Even down to having the print sort of floating in that frame too. It's that extra isolation. There's no glass. I don't feel that separation honestly when I'm looking at him.
Yeah, I mean, you Venessa, you said it. No, yeah, but the idea that these could sort of feel like relics and from a time, but again, sort of a time in the future that feels like a past, so very sci-fi. Like you could have uncovered these images in a dusty, abandoned warehouse in Ogden in, 2080, and they would just have a quality that felt like the past, but it's of the future. That was sort of a
2080 is is that the next pandemic?
Yeah.
So it's just
How old will we be?
Really? Hopefully we're going by then.
And that floating quality, and that was actually a collaboration with the printer I work with, who suggested that style of framing to give it that light, to complement the already light airiness of the images, because they had this, they're shot in long, at least the composite images are long exposures layered on top of one another to give this feeling of movement, and it has a lightness to it. And so he was really wanting to complement that, and I thought it was
Well, that's nice to have a
great
little
ad.
collaboration with the printer himself, too.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, and when I picked the prints up, the printer was really excited because he had never printed anything like that, actually. And he said that printing these and framing them were really actually the most fun that he has had. And he was more proud of those than he was of all the other, prints and frames that he does. And he's been around for quite a while. So
voice number 6 is Kelly McLeod, by the way. Anybody who's listening, yeah. Or we'll just, anybody who's walking by. You just
Come
feel
on
free.
in.
come on in.
We have extra microphones. So can we talk a little bit about your dancers? I'm so happy to have you here. And so
Yeah,
the
happy to
collective itself and how long you've been doing that,
Yeah.
and who is part of this particular piece,
Okay.
if you remember.
I do,
Okay.
absolutely. We were born 2 months before COVID, so we're a little stunted, but we're getting there. And there are more projects in the works. We're local artists who have something to say. MoveMeant Collective, as in we're here to be a voice for the community. So I want to have people who are embedded in different parts of the community. I met, Joe Blake is a huge player. He's an associate professor of dance at Weber State University. And yeah, I guess for this process, we did our audition over Zoom. We started rehearsing over Zoom, and we probably had about 4 hours together in person total. So our first rehearsal was the most raw approach to a project I've ever had. There was some tears. It was more like, hey, how's everyone doing? How's everyone holding up? And it just all starts coming out, which I think was necessary just with the nature of our project.
Oh, 100%. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but your movement is spelled
It's another word, yes.
M-E-A-N-T, right?
Yes.
It's a word that's not
significant.
really a word.
Yeah. A
But
word
it
that's not a word.
is.
Yeah.
But it is, but we all feel that
Google it.
difference in that, right?
Yeah. Well, it might be helpful to note that my background is not just dance performance, but it's dance therapy. So it's using the creative and movement process to actually process. So we're not just making up cool moves. We're processing, like, the word social undistance. A feeling of isolation lives in your body. And so to process that in an embodied way while creating something meaningful is incredibly vulnerable. And so to be all on our tiny little screens with our cats walking through our camera and trying to connect to each other, it was intensely challenging emotionally and also logistically.
And so having the chance to have the in-person element had to have, that's a significant next step. That was special for me, just to participate in that. And you had did you have 3 separate performances? One downstairs and
Yeah.
then 2 different ones upstairs?
We had 3 spaces, but we had 5 different pieces.
5 pieces.
Mhm.
Could you take us through that?
Yeah,
Could we hit on those, at least, maybe even a couple of those?
for sure. I'll be concise.
You can be concise as you need to.
So the opening is between a poet, a cellist, and a dancer, and this piece happened over email. So I emailed this poet.
As all best choreography does.
yeah, it's totally a product of the last year. So I emailed Brandon Dominguez. He's a English professor at Weber State, and I said, hey, I have this idea for a collaboration. Could you write a poem? And he's like, sure. And then a month later, he gave the poem to a dancer, Rodolfo Raphael, and Rod created a movement solo that echoed the poet. So like the cadence, the speed of the words, And then a month later, Rod gave the recording of his solo to a cellist, Sierra Rasmussen, who's a Weber State Music graduate, and she created a piece to it. And then we got together one day and we said, how can these all live in a space together? And it became a piece. There's a quartet on an 8x10 rug, and that happened because we didn't have a space to rehearse. So how can we get together and make a movement that doesn't take up a lot of room? And then there's a solo by Joe Blake, and that happened a few weeks after the killing of George Floyd. And so Joe Blake and beautiful dancer Kristen Housekeeper got together at opposite ends of a studio and just mirrored each other's movements to create this beautiful 9-minute journey. And then there's 2 more pieces. Unheard Community is about the physical, psychological effects of the virus and how we feel about being close together. And then the last piece, Underneath the Edge, was about earthquakes. And we all know that last year had an earthquake, and there was like an ongoing shifting of what is normal, what are we dealing with now, what's coming up next. I think we were all kind of just like bracing ourselves. And Alicia Trump, no relation, does a really good job at
Important distinction.
Yeah. She did a really good job at just like amping up tension over a period of 6 minutes into this highly physical, jumping, running movement that just kind of crashes and something shifts at the end. So the dance concert as a whole was meant to kind of embody every aspect of the last year, and I think it did that.
I think, and then some. I think that the quartet was probably one of the more moving ones for me, and that was probably because of it was very intimate, it was very close, it was very, almost a little bit uncomfortable still, because
Right.
for some of us that are just starting to venture out, that night was actually one of the first nights, that I've been out for an event, and there was still a little bit of that natural distancing happening until that quartet, and we gathered in a little bit smaller space, and the 4 of you were very close, and it was an intimate piece.
I think it's really important to talk about the structure of the actual performances, because I think that's what made this, well, obviously not just this, but it definitely added a whole nother level of intimacy. So we had 3 groups, so you came in and you were placed in a group from anywhere from 8 to 15 people, and each group got to have their own journey. You got to see every piece, but you got to experience it with people in your group. You got to get close. You were able to get close to the performance. There were comments like, I could feel the dancers' breath as they were dancing, and I think it touched people. It was a different way to see a performance.
It was a fully guided experience in some ways.
It was. Each group had a guide that kind of helped them through it and explain the process and the piece as well.
Which, going into, an experience like this, having that guide is really nice. Like, it's really nice because I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I showed up, right? You have a sense, and I think probably for the most part we're all on board. But I felt very safe that whole night. It was all very new too. And I think that's a nice transition to another question that I have real quick. And that's bringing these, what's the best way to put it? Unique experiences to this gallery space. And this seems like a trend that we got going here, Venessa.
Yeah, I want to provide something at Ogden Contemporary Arts that doesn't exist in Ogden. And there's nothing like any of the shows that we've shown thus far in Ogden, and my goal is to continue to do that and keep our community engaged, and as well as our local creatives engaged in every single show.
Well, you get a little round of applause on that one for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
I look forward to the rest of the year. Let's just say that. All right, Cam, looking back, a year of your life, how's it feel? How's it feel when it all came together? I know you're wrapped up another large project with the muralist that just just left town today. Very, very sad, Don Rymax. And so are you feeling a different kind of weight, or how's this feel for you? I was going to ask you today anyway. I'm going to put you in front of a microphone to do it.
Liberating.
Liberating. That's a
Yeah.
nice word, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was your experience the first night of the exhibition or the performance or the whatever we're calling it?
Well, stressful. We were trying to get curtains for the installation up to the hour before we opened, and
We succeeded.
I mean, there was
Which part of me is like,
Thanks to
you know
Kelly.
what? Thank you, Kelly. That's almost got to be part of it, you know? I mean, you've done plenty of openings. I've done some openings where it's just like that experience really does. I mean, it kind of has to be part of the process to some degree. I think if it went too smooth that first time, it would feel like, did I leave
This
the
is
stove
easy.
on? Or
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be
why
something.
don't we do this all the time?
Yeah.
Don't you have to feel like you need a beer after?
Or
you're like,
or
you know,
during.
yeah.
Or during.
Or a bottle of wine, a bottle of
Pick
whiskey.
your poison.
You know, it's just
Right.
a whole bottle of whatever you're drinking.
No, yeah. Liberating was sort of the feeling more after the fact. I think, well, I don't know, that's not necessarily fair, because the second the show started, once the curtains were hung, and it's like, at least on my end, it's just like, okay, I have no more control over this, and I was very relieved to have no more control, because otherwise I will continue to pick and fix and tweak, and that is an exhausting process. And so the second it's sort of released is a huge weight off my shoulders. You know, Tawna and her group still had to perform, so they had that stress, but on my end it was like, okay, now just sit back, take it in, and see how it's received, which was important because it wasn't made to live in an echo chamber and just live for myself. So
You know, that is a really good point, because I mean, that's really the nature of what we've all been through too, is the fact that this is a truly collaborative piece, right? And I think for most of us over this last year, that's been really important, is that those relationships, even because it's a combination of being isolated but still developing and getting stronger in relationships at the same time. And so being able to sort of let that go because you have to, and now, you know, you're entrusting it to the rest of your team essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, and other than that, then it just was confidence inspiring to sort of follow through with what was really a crazy idea. And along the way, there were a lot of ups and downs and anxiety about even chasing this idea, a lot of which I just kept to myself, or, you know, shared with Kelly. And
Yeah, I think Kelly, I was going to ask her next.
Yeah.
Like,
I have all the
if
details.
you could tell me the truth about what he just said, that would be great. Yeah.
Off the record, sure.
but to sort of have it all come together at the end and be well received. I've heard from, I'm still hearing last night, you know, people coming up and sharing very warm and vulnerable feelings about the performances and the show in general. And, you know, that's feedback, that is energy that I'm taking and like really wanting to recycle back into the process as quickly as I can.
100%. I get that.
Love that.
Yeah, so
Well, we're still coming up with new ideas. Tawna sent me a text message this morning like, oh, what if we did this? I was like, and I'm not going to say what that is because maybe it's a future show. but I'm like, we got to hold that one for the next show. We're there.
So what are the dates for this particular show? And I don't know when this show's going to be released.
This show goes till the end, July 25th. So
Okay.
you still have a few weeks few weeks, 3 weeks to come check it out. And the performances are over, but the show's still really amazing. And if you haven't seen it yet, you've got to come in. And I guess this is live? This is live streamed right now, right?
Some is live streaming, and then
Okay.
the edited version will be out in a couple
Great.
weeks.
So those of you that are listening now, come tonight.
Bonus.
It's First Friday. Come
Tonight would be a
experience it for
really good night
yourself.
to go. Yeah.
Yes.
Come tonight.
yeah, unfortunately we only get one because it's just the natural timing of when the last show was taken down and when we were able to install, and then the next show coming in. we only get one first Friday, even though we're up for almost 2 months. But so come tonight because it's a good buzz.
So take us through a quick experience. The Ogden Contemporary, arts gallery space is all still pretty new to a lot of people, and so you can get to the space through the Monarch itself if you come tonight. You do have a door on 25th Street as well. Anything that we need to know collectively as a community coming in?
No, just come in and enjoy. And after you check out our space, go into the Monarch if you haven't been through the building yet, and check out all the creative studios because they'll all be here as well tonight. And
tonight, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon, you got something going on.
Yes.
That's like, he's thinking about it right now. He's already tired.
I'm nervous already. We have 3 awesome bands.
Nervous. 5 years of doing this. You get nervous every time. You're going to do great.
I feel like I'm Cam. Like, where's the damn curtains? like it's always something, right? Like, yeah.
The van's here, so that's a good first step.
Step 1, get the van in the building. So that is check. Yeah.
Well, and I'll put a plug in for Ogden Contemporary Arts. If you come out at any point in time over the next 6 months or whenever it is you can make it to any show, support the arts, donate, buy memberships. You can buy a membership for as little as $50.
Yeah, if you buy our membership right now, you can actually come to our members only happy hour. And it's like $50 for an annual membership, and every first Friday you can come enjoy free drinks, small bites. So that's it. And thank you, Kelly. Kelly's also one of our board members, that should be said. Thank you for your service, Kelly.
But it helps support all these artists who have a space like Ogden Contemporary Arts, and they keep the doors open so that these people can show their art. So it's really important.
Yeah, and if you guys had any idea what's coming ahead, like just get on board now. Just get on board now because you're going to want to. You're not going to want to miss anything that's coming up. Can you talk about anything that's coming up yet?
For those of you that are listening, I'll give you the little teaser. We've got Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips coming to install the King's Mouth at Oka for August 6th. That is going to be a ticket event, so keep an eye on our website, on our social media, and buy your tickets because there will be a limited amount of tickets available, and it's going to be a really, really great show. Wayne will be here. It's going to be fun.
Yes, those Flaming Lips.
Confirmed.
I think that's a good follow-up as well.
This is still Ogden, Utah, by the way.
You don't have to remind us. But I like that we forget all of a sudden, yeah. All right, any last thoughts? Cam, Kelly, Tawna, Kelly, Cam?
I just want to quickly thank Dylan Totaro and his involvement. I mean, he was put in a lot of hours in the editing room putting this together. And then, of course, thank you, Tawna. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Venessa, for trusting some crazy ideas and playing with those ideas. And then Joe Blake as well, because unfortunately he couldn't be at any of the shows, but he was there.
Well, thank you all for coming. Make sure and get to the gallery space just as quick as you can. I think tonight is perfect for those of you all listening right now. So thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. That was great, Trace. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Nine Rails Arts Podcast, produced by the Banyan Collective, arts and adventure podcasting since 2010. Don't miss an episode of the Banyan Collective's Nine Rails Arts Podcast as we explore what it means to be an adventurous creative. Hear the stories of Ogden's new Nine Rails Creative District, recorded from the Banyan Collective Studio, located in the district's epicenter and home of artisans, designers, and creatives, the Monarch Building. Follow the Nine Rails Arts Podcast on Facebook and Instagram at @9Rails. That's 9 Rails. For more from the Banyan Collective, search The Banyan Collective on Apple's podcast app, Spotify, and YouTube. This week, we'll leave you with a little something from Van Sessions, Banyan Collective's podcast and music series recorded live during Ogden's first Friday art stroll at the Monarch Building.
2008, housing market crashed. I lost my job, and then it was a Sunday night, and I said, usually I have Sunday night blues, but not this Sunday night. So that's kind of where this song comes from.
Perfect.
Another Monday's coming around, but I'm not scared. 'Cause I learned my lesson long, long ago, that when something in your life seems void, it might be because you're unemployed. You're unemployed, that's all you need to know. You're unemployed and Now weekdays are the same as the weekends, except you get to hang out with your working friends. On the weekend, Sam and Jordan, women, Mike and Lloyd. Monday they'll be gone 'cause they're employed. You're unemployed, that's all you need to know. You're unemployed and It's dinner time and bill collectors won't stop calling you. And somehow you knew this day would come. Plasma screen TVs are the clearest ones, but they're clearly not affordable for you. At the time, the plasma screen TV was like the pinnacle of TV watching, and it was very expensive. I've got too much time, I'm unemployed. I can't make a dime, I'm unemployed. I can't make these words rhyme, I'm unemployed. I said I'm unemployed, that's all you need to know. Unemployed and I said I'm unemployed, that's all you need to know. Unemployed and
Yeah.